Yes. Thank you everyone for coming.
You're welcome.
Okay, so today I'm going to be giving a speech on what I believe is what currently the Bible teaches us about the death penalty, and why I believe that if you are a believer in the death penalty, you may not be seeing all of God's values in that. Now, I realize this is a very controversial topic. I know that a lot of people have very strong feelings and personal experiences with this, and I realize there are some very bad criminals out there who do some heinous types of things, and that in society's view deserve to be put to death because of that. And that a lot of the ways that executions are handled are not necessarily cruel and unusual punishment, that the state has tried its best to take something that could be very painful and uncomfortable for someone being executed and do their best to take that away from people. My main point now is a couple things that I've come across that I think people need to understand before they make up their decision about the death penalty. First off, what I would say is not necessarily every person that is convicted of a crime is guilty. And recently in the state of Virginia took some information they had. There was actually a study from 1973 through 1987. And the state of Virginia had some extra money. They had these files where they had saved DNA evidence from that time frame in over 250 cases. And they said, unfortunately, at the time that the cases took place, they were unable to use DNA to look at this information. Now, a large percentage of these were sexual assaults, but in the case of the 250 cases, they have exonerated 38 people, 5 of which were on death row for murder. Completely released these people because they are innocent and the DNA evidence proves it. And my feeling on that is, if there is ever a possibility that you are sending an innocent person to death row, the death penalty needs to be looked at, because there is no reason that we should ever, in any case, get to the point that just because of our jurisprudence, an innocent person is murdered. It's very important that we get rid of that. And I don't believe currently the court system is set up to be able to accurately decide that. They generally go with something that may be a preponderance of the evidence, but not 100% absolute, I agree, you need to die kind of proof. Mainly for that, I would say that we actually have information in the Bible, Numbers 35, and God's provision of the cities of refuge for the people of Israel clearly states that in cases where people were killed by accident, there could be a situation where a blood relative would feel that they need to die, that the person was responsible for someone's death, but God made the provision that someone who in an accident done this should have a place to go, that they were safe from harm. And if God believed that back in a time frame when he was very adamant about people who were sinners were going to die for their sin, that he was very adamant about wiping the enemies of Israel off the face of the earth, for him to make this special provision for people makes it important that we realize that. Secondly, what I would say is, what we show on the system is, in a lot of cases, the state is trying to use new and different ways of determining what is applicable for the death penalty. Now, I have a court case that was Kennedy versus Louisiana, where a man was convicted of raping a child. Now, the child was 12. It was very bad. Apparently it was a very significant rape. The girl was traumatized by it. The state of Louisiana felt that the crime was heinous enough that he should die for his sin, and went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court adamantly said no. In his case, the child did not die. Yes, the rape was very bad, but in this situation, the burden of proof does not exist that what he did was sufficient to call for his death. Because in this case, what he caused was psychological and immediate harm to the person, but did not take their life. The second part of that is the evidence that we have before Congress, before each of the states, A lot of times what you will see is people are saying, okay, but if we enact the death penalty, one thing that it will do is stop people from committing crimes. That's not true. All the evidence that they have, everyone who has gone before Congress has either been someone who's not an expert in the field. Generally, if you look at the statistics for murder and other violent crimes, you will see a cyclic nature of that. So what happens is generally every 20 to 30 years you will have a rise in the number of murders regardless of the fact we have the death penalty. This happened up until the 70s when we had abolished the death penalty in many states. Even in states now that don't have the death penalty, you will see rising and falling rates of murder. It's not tied to the level of the death penalty that people have. That is irregardless of the situation. And so a state having the death penalty in its purview, that it can use it, a state like Texas where it's very popular and gets used a lot, they see increasing numbers of people who still continue to go and do crimes that they're going to be caught for it. And if somewhere like Texas where at the drop of a hat they'll put you on death row, if you know that that's going to happen and everybody knows about it, but it's not deterring crime, apparently it's not working as a deterrent to the actual criminals. What I would say is, one thing that I found in the Bible that seems to point me to what God believes was, if you look at the story of Cain and Abel, which is the first instance of murder in the Bible. And many people put Cain in such a bad light because he killed his brother. It was completely a jealous act. This wasn't anything that Abel had done to, put it in his face or anything like that. Cain was completely innocent. God specifically talked directly to Cain and told him, you are banished from the garden, you will toil the earth, but I'm going to put you on the earth and I'm going to mark you, and no man shall kill you. That is not their responsibility, and any man who does harm you, I will kill. So God very specifically said it was not man's responsibility to take care of Cain, it was God's responsibility. And so us as men should not have the responsibility to take care of these people. God will take care of them. My third point is that taking a life is a heinous crime, no matter what situation, and the only time that is acceptable is in the case of a life or death situation. Right now, currently, every state that has the death penalty requires, because of lethal injection, that you have a doctor present during the execution. Do you know that according to the American Medical Association, opinion number 2.06, that the AMA states that in every case of medical ethics, it is unacceptable for a physician to be present during a situation where someone is intentionally killed. And so what is happening in state law requiring a doctor to be there is they are forcing doctors to violate medical ethics by doing that. And forcing someone to violate their ethics is not something that you should do. In no purview should you see that. What I would say in that is, we have Ephesians 31, where basically God and the writer is talking about you need to forgive people. No matter what wrath people have, no matter what anger you feel at someone, you need to forgive them. Jesus very clearly put, if someone slaps you in the face, what do? You turn the other cheek. This is not something where you need to take revenge. God is responsible for that. And He wants you to love one another and bring all that to bear on it. All I would say is, these are points that I want to try to get you to the point just to think about it. And when you think about it, think about your situation. And when you believe someone honestly deserves to get the death penalty, put these points into fact. If I really believe that the person who committed this heinous crime deserves to die, I believe 100% of the time that if he needs to die, God will take him off the earth. And it's not up to me. And at this point, I'm saying I don't see any evidence that puts me into a standpoint that I think that I should be involved in a situation to kill someone. And I truly believe that our state laws and what is currently the situation in the United States and what they believe that they should do with the death penalty is something that is way outside of their rights as states, because they are infringing on personal rights of people. So, if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. Well, thanks for coming here today, and everybody, you have a great day, okay?